something beyond your understanding tells you that it's dangerous, you should believe it the first time.
We are talking Hostile Dimensions. This is written and directed by Graham Hughes and is a kind of found footage movie. And apparently this was made along with two other movies as a kind of loose trilogy, but it is a standalone film. So the story is a kind of science fiction, parallel universe, multi-dimension kind of story. What is the plot here? Okay, so let me give you an idea. The plot focuses on these two documentary filmmakers who are investigating this missing girl that has apparently gone through this, like, just a random door that is in the middle of this kind of abandoned house, which is in the middle of a room, just got like a freestanding door that's propped up, and she's disappeared. So they discover that there is this door, and when you open it, it can open a dimension effectively, or a pathway into parallel universes. And every time you open it, it could be something different. So they take this door back to one of their apartments and effectively try to document it. They get some help from like a scientist type, and effectively they want to try and rescue this missing girl who has got into this kind of a kind of parallel dimension. Things don't go quite according to plan, and we see lots of different worlds, some of which not quite familiar, some of which are completely bizarre. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So, it is worth noting that this is actually quite a low budget movie, but what an ambitious movie to kind of do on a relatively kind of low budget here. Let's discuss what I think works, and that to me is the biggest thing. This is like pure imagination. You know, nothing is off limits when you can effectively have a parallel universe that can be literally infinite amount of possibilities. Some might be very mildly different, some could be completely different. It's all up down to your imagination. And we see quite a lot of these kind of world hopping adventures, little mini kind of adventures. And again, it's a low budget movie, so, you know, but they do a good job, I think, here of having some very distinct realities. We never spend too long in any one. It's a case of kind of getting in there and having a look and seeing what you might find. But some of them are quite scary, so some of them are quite bizarre and almost comedic. But yeah, it's like very, very ambitious, and I think for the low budget they've had, I mean, you can kind of see some of the strings, if you know what I mean, but I think it's a compelling story with some great kind of like ideas and science fiction themes and stuff like that. For example, we'll have one world where there'll be sort of humpback whales flying in the sky. We see a world with kind of like a killer panda bear, spider monster, dark figures. There's kind of like a science fiction kind of like futuristic war one. So all sorts of little kind of vignettes almost of different kind of possibilities and things, and they learn that if they kind of think about where they want to go, they can get a broad idea about what kind of world they want. And there's personal stakes that end up getting involved. So I thought it's a thoroughly interesting idea. It's done with a kind of like quite a light tone. The movie, without being a comedy, it has some comedic elements, and I think it's just partly down to the kind of like the nonchalant characters that we have. These two documentary filmmakers and then this third guy, the scientist, they just seem like your average kind of people. When the scientist is not like some brain box, like nerdy guy who knows all the answers. He's just this guy who's completely astounded, you know, by what he sees as well. And they're kind of just like spitballing theories and ideas and things like that. And just the kind of their interactions is very kind of light and sort of like, you know, fun, upbeat, that kind of stuff. So it makes them for quite likeable characters. So you enjoy these characters and their interactions because they feel very kind of naturalistic. Now, this is a found footage movie, but there are sort of scenes where they're kind of watching files on computers and things like that. So you'll see then what the video files and stuff they're watching. So it is punctuated with some of the other kind of other styles of kind of camera work and things like that. So, but it's not like a mega shaky cam. A lot of the time the camera is actually kind of static and it's like a, so you don't really get the feeling of the kinetic shaky cam for a lot of the time. Sometimes you do, but for a lot of the time the camera is actually on a tripod or something like that. So it kind of feels, less like a found footage movie in some ways, but I would still certainly count it as that. It's not like a scary movie. There's a couple of sinister moments in it, but it's certainly more of a fantasy kind of science fiction kind of idea here. And it's like, as I said, the plot is, even though it's got quite lofty ideas, I think for the most part the plot is, it takes you along for the ride and it's quite kind of somewhat easy to follow. Maybe the third act not quite as much, but certainly the first two acts. And we do see some interesting VFX. It's low budget. It is low budget. You can tell it's VFX, but again, we have to give some kind of leeway really because of the low budget of this movie and the kind of the very ambitious nature of it. So what doesn't work in this movie, as I kind of alluded to, I think the third act slightly goes off the rails and becomes a little bit convoluted. We're introduced to a kind of a twist in the story, and I don't know if it fully kind of landed in regards to the narrative, if that makes sense. Like, I won't spoil obviously what happens, but to me it didn't quite, things weren't quite as narratively flowing is the best way I'll describe it. It kind of gets a little clunky in its storytelling in that kind of third act, and that's kind of where we'll have really the threat level kind of rising to a bit, to be honest. Now, you might not care about the budget. You just want to watch a polished film. And if that's the case, you may be disappointed with some of the VFX here. There are a couple of VFX shots, including the aforementioned flying whales, but we also get like giant humans, like Titan AE kind of style, and they look CGI, and low budget CGI at that. So, if you are a person that is, a little picky with regards to the VFX here are on the kind of the lower budget side. I guess if I had to have an issue with any of the kind of the storytelling elements here, the fact that what these people find, if you were to think about it in the context of a real world scenario, it's so like out there and amazing. I think the characters are a little not quite as shocked and bewildered as I think any realistic person would be, and kind of like they're a little bit too eager to be honest, with a little less prep than I would have thought people would have, taking like weapons or something into these dimensions and stuff like that, having like a safety line, something along the lines of this. So none of that really happened. So it seems these characters, in my opinion, are a little careless in regards to the kind of the prep, and then just kind of things like that, especially towards the end, we have a character following another character, and there's no way you'd be holding a camera because you're chasing after someone. There's no way you'd be like filming someone at this point. So again, the concept as a found footage narrative is a little bit kind of hard to believe at sort of times. But, I have to give this movie huge preps for its kind of ambitious nature. And even though I think the quality of the product is maybe a little bit rough around the edges, because of its like lofty ideas and just the fun nature of the movie, I am going to give this one a 7 out of 10 because I think it's like for such a low budget movie, they have done like such a kind of like an interesting idea here and execute it in a way that I think is fairly accessible and really kind of like used every penny that they've had in this budget to try and make this movie as a compelling visually as it could possibly be. but obviously the budget is quite low. Like I said though, it is rough around the edges, and I don't think it necessarily sticks the landing, but I think overall I'm going to kind of say this as a 7 out of 10, even though it isn't quite as polished as maybe some would like. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts? Please leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.